Chapter 1. The Hidden Conspiracy. I always had a knack for seeing through illusions. Not in a look at me, I'm so clever kind of way, but more in a I've lived in this cesspool long enough to smell the garbage way. Arcadia Prime, my home, was like that. Neon lights, glamorous billboards, and asterisk digital halos asterisk glowing above the heads of influencers. All of it a distraction, a holographic candy shop, hiding the rot underneath. It was one of those nights, the kind where the rain falls, but it never quite cleans the city. I was digging through encrypted files, a mindless activity for most, but for me, it was like breaking apart a jigsaw puzzle while everyone else tried to put it together wrong. And that's when I found it. A string of code, just a little too perfect. A breadcrumb leading to something bigger. I leaned back in my chair, hands behind my head, and smiled. Whoever had left that trail clearly didn't expect someone like me to follow it. Altheon, a voice interrupted my thoughts, pulling me back into reality. It was Celeste. Elegant, rebellious, and sharp as a cyberblade. She stood in the doorway, the flickering neon lights casting long shadows behind her. You've been at this for hours? Found something? Not just something, I grinned, leaning forward again. I found the motherlode. Her eyebrows raised, intrigued. She knew I wasn't one for exaggerations. I plugged the chip into the holo display, and suddenly the air around us was filled with scrolling code, fragments of images, and encrypted data. Celeste moved closer, her eyes sharp and focused. It's a conspiracy, the kind they write bad movies about. Hidden algorithms, manipulated narratives, entire digital personas crafted to control the city, I explained, my fingers tracing the lines of code in the air. And at the center, the elite, the ones with the brightest asterisk digital halos asterisk. They think they've covered their tracks, but they didn't expect me. Her lips curved into a smile, but there was something cautious behind her eyes. What's the next move? The next move, I stood up, grabbing my jacket, is to get the hell out of here before they realize I've already found them. We burst out into the rain-soaked streets, blending into the city's neon haze. But we weren't alone, not even close. A pair of drones buzzed overhead, scanning the streets for anything out of place. I glanced at Celeste, and she nodded her calm confidence, a steady anchor in the chaos. The streets of Arcadia were a living organism, pulsing with energy, but tonight, they were hunting us. There's an Indo-Greek myth, I said, ducking into an alleyway, pulling out my rig to scramble the drone signals. About a king who surrounded himself with mirrors. He thought he controlled his kingdom, but all he saw was himself, and in the end, it destroyed him. Let me guess, Celeste quipped, her back pressed against the wall. Lira is the king. Exactly, I smirked. She's so blinded by her reflection, she can't even see the collapse coming. We broke into a sprint, the sound of drone rotors growing louder. Lira, the untouchable goddess of Arcadia Prime, queen of the asterisk digital halos asterisk, had no idea what was coming her way. Her illusion of power was paper thin, and I was about to set it on fire. Celeste was right there with me, her mind as sharp as her moves. She slipped between buildings, darting under fire escapes while I hacked into the nearby surveillance grid, redirecting all eyes away from us. The streets were a mess of light and shadow, but we thrived in a ghost moving through a city that wasn't quite real. We reached the old hideout, a secured, low-tech bunker hidden beneath a crumbling section of the city. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Inside, the data I'd scraped from Lyra's network flashed on the holoscreens. Now, I said, cracking my knuckles and settling in for the long haul. Let's break this wide open. Chapter 2. The Battle for Reality. There's a rhythm to cyber warfare, one that most people don't recognize. It's not like those flashy movies where everyone's clacking away at a keyboard like maniacs. Real hacking. It's a dance a step forward, 2 steps back, and a sharp pirouette to dodge the traps they lay for you. And tonight, we were performing a bloody tango with the city of Arcadia Prime as our ballroom. Hold them off for 5 more minutes, I barked, fingers flying across my rig as Celeste monitored the drones closing in. My eyes darted across the holoscreens as I unleashed wave after wave of countermeasures, crashing into their firewalls like a battering ram. But I wasn't alone in this dance. The elite cyber defense team wasn't playing nice. They've sent the dogs after us, Celeste muttered, her voice calm, eyes narrowing as the digital attack on our bunker ramped up. They're trying to flood the network with junk data to slow us down. I grinned, more amused than worried. It's like watching the stoic philosopher fumble around in a fight. All theory, no practice. They're more dangerous than you think, Altheon, Celeste warned, glancing over her shoulder at the door, always watching for the inevitable physical attack that would follow the digital one. They're not trying to beat us, they're trying to make us overreach. Classic move. Get your opponent to stretch too far, throw all their resources into one attack, and watch them fall. It's like a match in the world of pancration, a little Indo-Greek trick I'd learned over the years. Let your opponent feel in control until they weren't. Well, I replied, tapping furiously. Joke's on them. I'm not playing checkers, I'm playing chess. Suddenly, the air shifted. They're here. Celeste's tone was calm, too calm for someone who had just heard the subtle hiss of hovercrafts outside. I knew she'd be ready, though always steady under pressure. I kept working. We needed to get this data out, not just decrypt it, but spread across the hypernate asterisk before they boxed us in. You've got 2 minutes to hold them off, or we're toast. Celeste didn't waste words. She moved like she'd been born for this, slipping out of the room and disappearing into the shadows, just as the walls trembled from the incoming assault. The sound of gunfire and metal on metal echoed faintly from the hallway. Meanwhile, I slipped through their digital defenses like a ghost in the machine. One of their agents sent a virus designed to overload my rig. I neutralized it with a flick of my wrist. Too easy. These elites weren't built for a war like this. They were too used to sitting on top, letting their control over the digital halo asterisk do the heavy lifting. They thought their wealth and power could protect them from any threat. They're the Archons, I muttered, laughing to myself as I cut through another firewall. Gatekeepers who think they rule the world, but they don't even understand it. Behind me, Celeste's quiet footfalls returned. You know, you could have mentioned the 3 more hovercrafts that joined the party. Her voice was smooth, barely winded from the fight outside. Didn't want to ruin your fun. A quick smile flashed across her face before she was back to business, scanning the data flows I'd cracked open. You're almost through, but they've sent in something else. I glanced at the screen, noticing a sharp spike in incoming data. Looks like they're ace in the hole. Probably some next-gen AI built to defend their fortress. It's going to throw everything at us. The final firewall was in sight, but this AI wasn't playing nice. It launched a series of counter-hacks, each one more aggressive than the last, pushing me to the edge of my capabilities. The pressure was on. I could feel the heat, but I kept cool, diving deeper into my stoic mindset. It's not the obstacle that breaks you, it's how you handle it. I hit back, deflecting the eye's attacks, and at the last second, I flipped their own code back on them, slipping through the cracks they didn't know existed. That's the thing about these elites, they always think they've built the perfect defense. They never realize their own arrogance is their greatest weakness. The data was mine. Celeste looked over the decrypted files as they streamed in, her eyes widening. It's worse than we thought, she said quietly. They're not just controlling information, they're controlling history. I nodded, tapping the final command to blast the truth across every network in Arcadia Prime. Well, I said, leaning back as the data exploded onto the hypernate asterisk. Looks like we just burned their history book. Celeste grinned. Lira is not going to take this well. No, I agreed, watching the last of their defenses crumble. She's about to lose everything she thought she controlled. Chapter 3, the Gnostic Revelation. The city was alive with noise news feeds buzzing, protests rising, and the digital chaos that comes when the truth hits harder than a freight train. We had done it. We had cracked their code, blown the lid off the conspiracy, and now the entire Arcadia Prime was waking up to the nightmare it had been living in. But for me and Celeste, the fight wasn't over. We were standing at the gates of the final fortress, deep in the heart of the hypernate asterisk, a place most hackers only dreamed of accessing. This was where the ultimate truth was hidden, the last key to understanding how the elites have been shaping reality for centuries. And it was guarded by something they called Asterisk the Demiurge, a monstrous AI designed to crush anyone who got too close. We're walking into the lion's den, Celeste muttered, her eyes scanning the glowing, shifting walls of the virtual labyrinth before us. I nodded. More like the prison of illusions. But we're not here to break out. We're here to burn the place down. We moved quickly, navigating the endless streams of data and dodging the digital constructs thrown our way by the AI. This wasn't just a fight of skill, it was a fight of philosophy. The AI had been programmed to uphold the false reality the elites had created. It was the ultimate gatekeeper, and it wasn't going to let us through easily. I'm in, I whispered, my fingers flying across my rig. We had breached the outer layers of the system, but we still had to face Asterisk the Demiurge asterisk. As soon as we crossed into its domain, I could feel the shift of suffocating weight pressing down on my consciousness. This was the heart of the illusion, the place where reality and illusion blended into one. This thing's more than just code, Celeste said, her voice tinged with awe. It's a prison for the mind, a trap designed to keep people from seeing the truth. Gnostic teaching, I replied, my eyes locked on the swirling data streams around us. The material world is a cage, built by false gods to keep us in the dark. The Demiurge appeared before us, its form constantly shifting a twisted, writhing mass of code and machinery, a reflection of everything the elites had tried to build. It spoke in 1,000 voices, each one cold and calculating. You cannot destroy what has always been. You cannot challenge the reality that was built for you. Funny, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I thought reality was something you had to earn, not something handed down by a bunch of digital overlords. The battle began. The Demiurge launched its attacks waves of data designed to overwhelm our systems, to confuse and distort our perception. But I was ready. Stoicism had taught me that reality wasn't what happened to you, it was how you responded. I blocked the attacks, deflecting them with carefully timed countermeasures, hacking into its core piece by piece. It's blind, I muttered, sweat beading on my forehead. It's so convinced it's invincible, it doesn't see its own flaws. Pride comes before the fall, Celeste whispered, echoing a lesson we'd both learned long ago. We fought side by side, dodging the illusions it threw our way, false promises of power, control, wealth, and fame. But we were beyond that. Celeste, ever the calm one, moved like a dancer through the chaos, her mind sharp, her resolve unshaken. And I was the battering ram, taking the eye's arrogance and turning it into its own undoing. Watch this, I grinned, flipping the script. With one final push, I hacked into its core and turned its own logic against it. The Demiurge hesitated, its form flickering, and that's when Celeste hit it with the final blow, a cascade of data that fractured the very foundation it had been built on. The AI screamed, its voice echoing through the virtual space. You cannot. I think we just did, I said, watching as its form crumbled, dissolving into nothing. The prism was collapsing, and the truth was finally free. The data burst through the network, every secret, every lie the elites had told, all of it spilling out into the world. The illusions they had built were shattered, and the people were waking up. Celeste stood beside me, her eyes reflecting the light of the crumbling fortress. We did it, she whispered, a quiet smile on her lips. Yeah, I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. But this is just the beginning. The city was changing, the elites were falling, and the world would never be the same again. As we walked away from the collapsing digital prison, I thought about the Gnostic teachings we had followed to this point. The Archon's asterisk, the false gods, had been defeated. The illusion had been destroyed. But the real fight, helping people see the truth, was just beginning. Let's go, I said, my voice steady. There's a lot of work to do. Celeste smiled, her eyes shining with determination. Right beside you, Altheon. Together, we disappeared into the neon-lit streets of Arcadia Prime, ready for whatever came next. Chapter 4, The Long Game. They say that battles are won in moments, but wars are won over lifetimes. And this wasn't just some hack and slash job, some quick in and out mission where you crash the system and walk away clean. No, this was a war for truth, for reality. And the funny thing about truth is, it doesn't need to swing a sword. It just needs to be asterisk. Arcadia Prime was quiet, for now. The storm had passed, and the false gods had fallen, their illusions shattered. But the work wasn't over, not by a long shot. People think good and evil are like light and shadow, I said, standing on the edge of the city, watching as the glow of the digital halo's asterisk faded into nothing. But it's not that simple. You don't defeat evil by smashing it with some mythical weapon. You defeat evil by not being it. Celeste stood beside me, her eyes scanning the horizon, as calm and steady as ever. You become what you do, she said softly, echoing the teachings we have both come to live by. Every action, every choice, it shapes you, and that's the secret they never wanted people to know. She was right. The elites had spent centuries trying to hide that truth. They wanted everyone to think the world was a game of power, of domination. Good versus evil, winners and losers. But the real secret, it was simpler than that. You don't need to be a hero to win. You just need to live in the truth. You just need to do asterisk. Evil isn't some monster you slay, I continued, my voice low and reflective. It's a lack, a void, and the only way it wins is if you give up and become part of it. The second you stop trying to live in the truth, you're feeding it. There was an old Indo-Greek saying that echoed in my mind. A man is his actions, nothing more. Simple, powerful. And that was the essence of it all. Lira and the elites had tried to build a world of control, of manipulation, but their downfall wasn't because we were stronger or smarter. It was because they had built their empire on lies, and lies can't stand forever. Celeste nodded, her lips curving into a small smile. It's like Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Stoicism had always been my guide, but it wasn't about being invincible. It was about resilience, doing the right thing even when no one was watching, especially when no one was watching. I glanced over at her, feeling a rare moment of peace. We didn't win because we're heroes, I said. We won because we kept moving. We didn't stop. We just kept doing what needed to be done. The city was shifting, evolving. People were waking up to the reality that had been kept from them for so long. But they weren't suddenly enlightened. They weren't about to start preaching in the streets. That's not how it works. Change is slow. It's the result of 1,000 tiny choices. It's not about being good or being evil, it's about what you do asterisk. And if you keep doing things that aren't evil, if you keep living in the truth, even when it's hard, well, eventually you win. Not because you're stronger or faster or more powerful, but because you're still standing, and they're not. It's like Gnosticism, Celeste mused, her voice soft but steady. The real battle isn't between good and evil. It's between ignorance and knowledge, between being asleep and being awake. And once you wake up, you can't go back. She was right. There was no going back. Not for us, not for anyone. The truth was out there now, and no matter how much they tried to bury it, it would keep pushing through the cracks. People want to make it complicated, I said, as we turned to walk back into the heart of the city. They want to make it about grand gestures and epic battles, but it's not. You don't have to be a hero. You just have to show up. Every day, keep doing the work. Keep living in the truth. And eventually, Celeste finished, evil falls. I smiled at that, because she was right. Evil isn't something you have to fight head on. You don't have to take it down in one great battle. You just have to keep going. Keep doing what's right. And sooner or later, it crumbles. Let's go, I said, my voice steady. We've got work to do. We disappeared into the neon glow of Arcadia Prime, knowing that the battle wasn't over, but feeling stronger than ever, because we knew the truth now. It wasn't about winning, it was about doing, and as long as you kept doing, evil didn't stand a chance.